Good afternoon, welcome back to another Sofa Safari with Tantatula. My name's Luke and I'm going to show you around this afternoon. Since we haven't been able to show you a really good sighting of the lion cubs just yet, that's going to be the first or our main port of call today. We're going to try and find them and see if we can get some good footage of them and maybe talk a little bit about them. We still are on the search for Marula's cubs as well. We're not going to forget about any of the requests, and we still are looking for wild dogs, believe me. Not a day goes by where a ranger doesn't look for a wild dog. But firstly, I'd like to stop and have a look at a particular tree. And my good friend from Canada, Kathy, she'll know which tree this is. Stick around and find out. Right, so we have found the thicket of trees that I had mentioned a little bit earlier. And if you have a look around me at the moment, maybe not on this side, but more on this side of the road, you'll see that there's a number of these what we call silver cluster leaves. And Kathy, I think this is the tree that you were talking about. And for science, I'm going to taste it for all of you today. And I think you'll be able to tell just by my facial expressions how that goes. But to give you a little bit of information on the tree, as I say, it's called a silver cluster leaf, and you generally find them growing on what we call seep lines. And seep lines are where underground water essentially during rainy seasons meets the surface again. And so these trees evidently like a lot of water. Sorry, let me turn down my radio quickly. Bush radio, you know, always keeping us entertained. But so this tree doesn't make use of thorns, and like a lot of trees out here, they don't have thorns, and so they've had to develop other ways of keeping themselves safe and away from the hungry mouths of herbivores, to some extent at least. However, most trees in Africa have thorns or spines or something like that, and they're all, as you may remember from one of my safari science videos, actively trying to make you bleed. Anyway, let's have a look at this tree, let's give it a taste, and maybe you guys can just imagine along with me. And this is the tree. Maybe with the camera there you can see that it's shiny and silvery. I don't know if it's going to pick up that, but it does have a very shiny silvery underside to the leaf. Which maybe if I just turn it in the sunshine from one side to the other, you can see the difference. So the silver cluster leaf. All right. And what this tree does is it produces a huge amount of tannin. And I mean, tannin's like the stuff you find in red wine, right? It sort of dries your mouth out, except this is on steroids, if you will. So Britt, here's your piece. They can just listen to your anguish in the background, and I will chew this on camera. So the trick is to not really swallow something like this, because a lot of too many tannins can have a negative effect. But all you do is you pop it in, chew it up, and wait for the effect. And almost immediately when you start chewing, your mouth begins to dry out, become quite furry, and becomes quite tricky to talk. But that's what animals experience when they eat trees like this. Excuse me. And that's why they choose not to eat it so much. However, I have seen things like buffalo and kudu and a few other things eating it too when they need to. Anyway, Britt, there she is. She's on camera for the first time. Hello, sweetie. And she is loving her silver cluster leaf. There you go.
It's really gross. And the first time that Luke made me eat this plant, he tricked me into believing that there was actually a tree in the bush called the bubblegum tree, and the leaves taste exactly like bubblegum, which, trust me, they don't.
I still do that. So there we go, guys. That's the silver cluster leaf. Kathy, I hope that brings back vivid memories of a delicious taste of bubblegum milkshake, or not, but you're the one that asked me to torture myself this afternoon, so I hope you can remember vividly what this feels like in your mouth. It still takes a bit of time. It doesn't help as well when I joke with my guests from all over the world that it takes about 3-4 hours for your mouth to come back to normal. Then you see a little bit of panic in their face. Luckily, that is just a joke, and I'm slowly coming back into normal. Anyway, lion cubs time, hopefully. Guys, I just wanted to stop and quickly chat about a tree, not so much the tree as opposed to what's happened to the tree. In Africa, as most of you know, we deal with some very, very large creatures, the biggest of all being the elephants. And elephants like to chow down on trees. Unfortunately for the trees though, elephants have the capability of completely demolishing the tree or just completely pushing it over when they feel like doing that. And contrary to popular belief, people think that elephants are trying to push a tree over in order to access the canopy at the top. That's not often the case. I mean, they will do that from time to time, and they will take that canopy as a byproduct if they need to. But what they're really trying to do is push the tree over to get to the roots. So as the tree comes out of the ground, the roots obviously come out, and the elephants can eat that. Now, if you can imagine, those roots are full of moisture and nutrition, and that's what they want, particularly during dry seasons. And what I wanted to do is stop here and talk about this tree over here. And over the last 4 years, this was always a big sort of, or let's maybe say 3 years, because this happened about a year ago. But since I started at Tanatula, this was always a beautiful tree to come past. You just come around the corner here and boom, you're confronted with this large knobthorn acacia. And if you have a look here, now that it's coming into frame, you can see that it is no longer very large. It has been completely demolished. The tree was pushed over by elephants. But if it's one thing that proves the resilience of life, is that this new branch growing out the top is this tree giving it another go at life. Right? You wouldn't expect a tree to be able to survive after incurring that much damage at the hands of a greedy elephant, but there it is, beautifully growing and ready to take on the world again. So yeah, let's see if it ever returns to that beautiful majestic size that it was beforehand. Now if Britt just shows the camera over that side there, hopefully the lighting works out. You can see that's where the tree is lying, and this tree wasn't put here by the elephants. He didn't think to himself, well, let me neaten this place up now that I've gone and buggered it all around. This was actually moved by us with a tractor because the elephant pushed the tree over into the road, and you know, in order for us to stop making another new road and destroying more bush, we decided to come and pull it away with the tractor. But that gives you some indication as to just how powerful an elephant is. I mean, this must have been, I don't know, for our American friends, a good, I don't know, 40 feet tall, you know, for everyone else maybe about 10, 12 meters tall. So a big tree, big thick a stem or trunk, and the elephant just came and flattened it one day. Now elephants usually use the top of their head and they push against it like that, and they usually rock it until it just snaps and comes down. So yeah, good job to the Ellies. Unfortunately, they didn't uproot this tree, they just pushed it over, and when we did arrive that next morning to see the damage, it didn't even look like that had more than a few mouthfuls from the canopy. So yeah, and this is why elephants are a little bit of a controversy as far as tree damage and bush damage is concerned. But that's a whole nother conversation for another day. Let's go see if those lion cubs are out, because I know that's what you really want to see. Not me yabbering about a tree. No lion. Alright, so Britt, the lion spotter, has failed us this afternoon, folks. Must have seen a squirrel or something. That's okay, lad, that's okay. We'll let you off the hook. Not like people want to see lion cubs doing it. No lions, folks. No lion cubs, at least. So as I was driving now, I just heard, "Ooh, lions!" So she's got her point back. Well done, Britt. You've spotted lions now 3 times in a row. So you're doing pretty well. But let's see if we can get a better view, guys. Stand by. So a little bit tricky to see them down there, but they're enjoying the shade. Oh, it looks like our 2 potential lovebirds. I don't know if you guys remember me talking about the phlegm grimace from my previous game drive, which is basically the testing of pheromones. There was a female with him a few seconds ago, and she must have urinated there or left some form of pheromone there that he's now testing. So watch him, he's going to go down, and hopefully he does it this time. When he lifts his head, you should see him sort of grimace like he's in a bit of pain. There you go, showing everybody his teeth. Looking good, buddy. And what he's hoping is that those pheromones that he's sensing at the moment, or tasting for lack of a better term, will indicate that she's ready to mate. Alright, so we've got a better angle here. You can actually see that there's 2 males and 1 female, at least so far. Actually, I can see another male a little bit further down the riverbed there. He's just parked out. Typical lions. But the one that has basically got his head buried in the river sand at the moment, I think what he's trying to do is make use of an earlier elephant digging. And elephants are quite renowned for finding the freshest water that they can possibly find, the cleanest water. They're actually quite the prima donnas when it comes to what they drink. And so they'll come down into the riverbeds and they actually dig this sort of 1 or 2 foot deep hole, and that allows them to access nice sand filtered water. And I think what's happening is the lion's trying to cash in on that, clever boy. So yeah, let's see if he's actually getting anything worthwhile other than a mouthful of dirt and maybe a bit of water. There you go, he seems to have got a little bit of water. But he's hot and bothered and thirsty, and I think the riverbed is probably the comfiest place to be right now. That's where I would be. If there were no lions down there. That was the sound of a lion going back to bed. Right guys, so we've sat here for a while, and basically these lions have just gone from one comfy spot to the other, and it's getting a bit dark, and with our current setup it's a little bit hard to film in the dark, so we're going to see if we can find you anything else before we lose all the light. So yeah, let's check it out. Right, so a little consolation prize just on the way home. This is what we call a scrub hare, and yeah, it's hard to imagine that something so fluffy and delicate and cute could actually survive out here, but they do. There's many of them. They breed like rabbits, so to say. Yeah, there he is, cute little guy. They are 100% vegetarian, so he's just having a bit of a graze. And we're going to turn the lights off on him now because obviously it puts him in a little bit of a disadvantage. But to have a quick look for science, that's always a good thing. And then once we're done having a good look, we pop the lights off. So thank you for joining us on another Tandatula Sofa Safari. It's been a pleasure having you for the evening, and we thought we would end off with this beautiful sunset behind us now, just the moon coming out, the crescent moon. It is getting a little bit dark for us to be gallivanting around, but over the next few weeks we hope to continue to show you the beauty and majesty of the Timbavati and of Africa itself. So yeah, have a wonderful evening everybody, and we haven't forgotten those requests. Keep them coming. We know who you are, we know what you're looking for, and we'll do everything we can to show it to you, or show it to you. But yeah, until next time, see ya.